Informative time for everybody. We're just going to go ahead and get started to honor your time and to have plenty of time for questions at the end. We want to keep it informal, and so there's plenty of food, and we really want to make sure that it's all eaten, so please go up your seconds. And we didn't have quite enough room, so we set up some desserts there in the cart on this wall, so please help yourself to those as well. But I just wanted to say welcome, thanks for coming, and at this time I'm going to introduce Dr. Naidu, who's going to get us started with the program.
Thank you. I'm profoundly grateful to ALA and who sponsored this event, as well as the SLA and NISA for the co-sponsors. Thank you so much for putting it together. We are very, very grateful, as I know all the students that are here. Thank you also to the faculty for showing up and being available to answer your questions. Okay, so it's going to be a very informative time, so ask whatever you want to, and hopefully someone's going to be able to answer. Okay, we're going to start by having Will Bunton make some few introductory remarks, and then Dr. Huber, the director of the program, will address you, after which it'll be pretty much an open forum. Okay? Thank you so much.
Just to give you all a little bit of background of kind of how we find ourselves here today, the graduate school requires all graduate programs at the university to have some kind of final evaluative process, and for years it has been the final exam. Which, if you're not familiar, it's a 4-hour timed exam. You read 5 questions, you answer 3 successfully. This semester, well, it's been going on for 1 semester, but this semester we finally got the approval to change from the final exam to a portfolio option, which in the end I think is going to be a very good decision by the faculty. Some of the things that I like about the portfolio, it's not quite so much a time writing exercise as the final exam is. It gives the students a little more time and the opportunity to be a little more thoughtful about what they're producing as a final product. And ideally, some of the students will get some of the products out of this exercise that they will use with respective employers, and perhaps even students that they might be able to submit a publication. Keep in mind, as we kind of go through today and as we go through the next couple of semesters, this process is not only new to you, it's new to us as well. So we will need to have a little bit of flexibility. I know we've got some questions that were submitted ahead of time that really want some fine detail. That may not exist immediately, but it will in time. So flexibility and patience are probably 2 things we want to keep in mind. And now, Dr. Huber.
Well, I'd just like to reiterate what Jeff said and thank everybody for coming, for putting this together. It really is a work in progress, and the draft of the guidelines that Emily just passed out, you'll find that there are some inconsistencies and accuracies in there, including the fact that the demographic page didn't get removed from the checklist on the 2nd page, but it did get removed from the components of the portfolio on the 1st page. So that should be scratched off of the 2nd page as well. The good question was raised, what do we mean by demographic page? And we realized that we could really handle all of that just by having a copy of your resume or vita. So it's a work in progress. We're still figuring this out. We're going to be flexible. You'll have to be flexible along with us. For example, we say in the guidelines that you need to submit work products that include feedback from faculty members. We already know that not everybody has requested copies of their assignments from faculty members that were submitted electronically. So we'll be accepting copies of assignments that without feedback, at least for the 1st semester that we run through this. Obviously, we can't ask you to recreate things that you didn't actually have, and we don't necessarily have copies to return to everyone either at this point. So, questions, and feel free to jump in. Sure.
We had some questions that were submitted before today, and the first question was what Dr. Huber was just talking about as far as incorporating professor comments. Also, when you're working on the individual pieces, you have to write a rationale for those pieces. So you might include in there, the professor comments were not incorporated into this because blank. There's a question about, we're doing a portfolio, the students in the school library program also have to do a portfolio. Yes, there can be some crossover between those 2 items. I'm not very well versed in what goes into the school library portfolio. But if there are items there that you think are applicable to the general program portfolio, you may duplicate items across those. If the submitted portfolio is deemed unsatisfactory by the reviewers, is there an option for resubmission? Yes. The graduate school allows for students to sit for an exam twice. So if that were the case, you would have a second opportunity.
But you should be soliciting feedback from your faculty advisor throughout the process. So as you're putting together your portfolio, you should be requesting feedback from your faculty advisor. So there really shouldn't be a big surprise when you actually submit that portfolio, because you should have already gotten feedback along the way. But it's your responsibility to solicit that feedback. That's not our responsibility.
Will I have to present the portfolio to the committee, or will I just submit a written copy through Blackboard? All this will be done through Blackboard. You will not have to have face-to-face meeting time with the committee or with your advisor, although both are options, either on campus or via Adobe Connect, telephone, email, however you want to communicate with your advisor, we can accommodate that. Will the portfolio be in template form, or will I have the freedom to highlight other things that I think are important? There will be a general template that you can look at in the portfolio guidelines that tell you basically what type of items you want in there. There is an item for other supporting documents, so you do have the option to include other things that are not specifically listed. And another question was talking about work experience. That might be a place where you might incorporate work experience. Perhaps you've developed a Pathfinder for your local library, or you put together a program for a book collab or something like that. You might be able to include items like that in there as well. The format of most of these items, if you're thinking about general essays that you've written for class, are probably going to be a Word-compatible document. But you will have the ability to include other things. If you've done a YouTube video, if you've done a website, you'll be able to incorporate electronic items as well as essays that you can submit to the instructors. And so within those specific items, the student will have some formatting and stylistic decisions that they will make on their own, that we won't tell you necessarily. Every font size needs to be easily read, the kind of quality as far as formatting goes that you would turn in an actual assignment. How much will participation in professional activities count? There is not an item on here that specifically measures that. So if you don't participate in student organizations, you are not penalized. If you don't participate in the American Library Association, you aren't penalized. Both of those are good things to do, but they're not necessarily held against you.
But if you are active in organizations, you probably want to highlight that in some of your narrative.
How long is the comps test? What are the advantages of taking comps versus doing the portfolio? Comps are 4 hours long. You walk in, you get 5 questions. You have to select 3 of those questions to run for 4 hours. You have to answer each of those 3 questions successfully. As far as which is better, for you all, it's a matter of personal preference. For the students who come in the fall, they don't have a choice. They have to do the portfolio. They're required to watch it. So it's just you all that have to get this choice. But it really becomes a matter of personal preference. Would you rather sit in a room and write for 4 hours, or would you rather work on a project over the course of the semester? And that's really something that you all would need to decide once you get enough information to make a decision. What about students graduating in December? Is a portfolio feasible? Yes, and that's where the flexibility comes in, because if you look at the timeline, you all will have missed already some of those deadlines, but we're going to work with that. So yes, it's feasible. It might be a little more flexible, but yes, it's feasible. If you've never had your advisor in class or worked closely with them, is it possible or better to switch advisors to someone more informed of your school work and goals? If so, how can one do this? You can do that by just switching your advisor, but you just need to find someone else who would be willing to serve as your advisor. It's not necessarily anything that I would specifically recommend. The idea behind the portfolio is that it's going to produce, your general comprehensive education that you receive in the program, and because of that, any faculty member should be able to be a very competent advisor for your portfolio. So, again, it's really up to you. And the last question was about how much we've already covered. Will we get feedback or comments if the portfolio passes? No, the portfolio will be graded on a pass-fail basis. But again, as our computer was saying, once you get to the point where you decide to submit your portfolio, you should have had enough feedback from your advisor to know whether or not that's a good idea. So what other questions do you all have? Are there any factors?
Is it still possible to pass with distinction for the
We've not discussed that so far, it's just pass-fail. That may be something that we have later.
You had mentioned that faculty feedback is important for your artifacts that you submit, and that for the first semester, if you don't have that because of previous coursework situations, things like that, it won't count against you. What if we're halfway through the program now, are you going to complete it part-time, so that would be in 2 years or so? Would that still be an issue for the faculty feedback if we've already done all our core courses and people aren't here anymore? Or
The more time that you have left in the program, keep
working on it?
working on it, keep good the feedback that you get from here on out.
Okay.
What form does that feedback take? Are you talking about written notes on papers?
Well, part of that is going to be the feedback that they say. For instance, if they say your bibliography is MLA, it should have been APA, then you should convert the bibliography to the suggested format. Do we want the actual feedback that the instructor has provided?
That's what we talked about as a faculty.
So you could probably include that in the rationale. As part of the rationale for deciding why you selected that item, you might say the instructor's feedback included the following, and this is how I address those items.
One comment might just be then, if you're in online classes, it would be a good idea for students to try and store and document the feedback that they have gotten. For instance, in the grade book, sometimes associated with a grade, there'll be instructor comments, or you might have gotten feedback by way of email that has detailed comments. So again, I think it sort of shifts some of the responsibility to the student to keep track and of the feedback and to associate it with the work they did in the courses they presented.
And that'd be a real easy copy paste from the email or the Blackboard comment into the paper that you actually submitted. So
Well, I'm also thinking of like web-based projects, that you might do. Makes it more dynamic. I'm trying, when I think of a portfolio, I think of this book.
Yeah.
Right, and obviously that's not going to be the case, is it? If you're including YouTube videos, if you're including web pages or search engines that you might create or things like that, you're not going to stick that in a book somewhere.
Right.
So I'm trying to picture in my head, what form is this portfolio going to take? What physical form is it going to take? Is it going to be online?
It's
Is it going to be like Word documents and things like that all attached?
It's, we're still investigating. There is actually a portfolio option built into Blackboard, and that's one option that we're looking at. We're still getting information about that. But in my mind, and once we get to that point, I should be able to put together a mock portfolio for people to look at. So that is in the works, that you all would have something, you wouldn't necessarily have actual content items, but you might get an idea of how it might be structured and what the final piece might look like. But if you think about it as kind of electronic chapters, and chapter 1 is the paper you submitted for 601, so it's just a Word document. Chapter 2 is a video you did for online instruction, so that's actually a YouTube video. So it's all going to be electronic. You won't turn in any kind of physical paper as part of the process.
Since these are on Blackboard, is there going to be a way that we can archive them ourselves to present to, if there's stuff in it that we want to put on a CD or if we want to put it on our website, how long is the Blackboard portfolio going to be saved?
Well, everything that you upload to Blackboard, you have.
Right, but as one piece.
It's like a work in progress or something.
We've got a meeting with Blackboard people, so we can ask them about that, because I'm not sure.
We're meeting with them at 2 today.
It does appear that, from the little I've looked at, that there is sort of an export feature where you can package, where you can take the portfolio from Blackboard and export it as a package that you can then take with you, or in that sense.
As far as the comments go, we're all aware now to keep track of those, but what happens with the people who choose that option for courses previous that